Welcome to the Science of Fitness podcast, where we aim to inspire you to live a more healthy and fulfilling life as we share evidence and anecdotes on all things relating to health, performance, business, and wellness. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Science of Fitness podcast. And this is our first podcast for this new year, 2026. It's been about a month off. And in that time, we've had to deal with the usual chaos that gyms do in terms of the new starting memberships and all the new people with a New Year's resolution. It's been incredibly enjoyable and been an exciting month. However, it has led to me not making time for this, which I really enjoyed doing. So really glad to be back for this first episode of the year. I'm going to be doing this solo episode, and this is going to be in line with what will be our 11th birthday officially this weekend. So that is the 14th of February on Valentine's Day. It's perfectly timed. And essentially, I want to do a very similar episode to what I did last year with Joey for our 10th birthday, in which we talked about 10 sort of lessons from 10 years in operating SOF. To make things a little bit different this year, I'm going to be going obviously solo, but more importantly, I want to be sharing 11 rules from 11 years in both fitness and in business. And these rules don't just apply to fitness or to business, they apply to both. And I'm going to be sharing stories and I guess sort of anecdotes as to why they apply to both and what we've learnt. I think it's quite funny sitting and taking the time to think of 11 things and 11 rules that we've learned through the experience of doing what we do. And quite often, you sort of have to think back on what's happened, what you've learned, why you've learned it. And most of the time it's come from, challenges and difficulty and growing through them. And so that's where these lessons come from. To think that we are successful or where we want to be in business would be a lie. And I think anyone that is in business listening to this, or anyone really considering their health and fitness listening to this, is unsatisfied with where they are. And there's always something they want to work on, which first and foremost is almost a lesson in itself. We're never going to be where we want to be. But ultimately, it's about the process and the journey as opposed to simply just getting to a destination. Because once you're there, what comes after that? And so let's get straight into it without wasting any time. Rule number 1 for fitness and business: turn up. Turn up, turn up, turn up. Consistency trumps everything. I had the opportunity of sort of working with a bunch of people this morning, our typical clients, in from 5 a.m. And I asked them all the same question. If you were to sort of pick a rule that applies to your fitness and your training, as well as your career and your business that you do, a lot of them are business owners themselves, the first thing 6 out of 6 said was turn up. Turn up every single day, no matter what, which, obviously had to go down as rule number 1. And I couldn't agree with it more. It was the first rule that I put down when sitting and thinking up this list. And it is that simple. Quite often we don't feel like doing what we need to do, be it in business or be it in fitness. We don't feel like waking up early and doing that training session. We don't feel like getting home from work or stopping during the day and doing whatever we need to do in terms of the training or the work that we need to do. But just simply getting there, putting on your shoes, getting out the door, going for that run, putting on your suit, getting into the office, going to work, that feeling will soon pass. And quite frankly, simply turning up is the hardest thing, and it's where a lot of people tend to fall short. And so being robust and resilient enough to turn up no matter what, that's the first lesson. And that's something that we've sort of stood behind at SOF for a long time. We ask it of our clients. We ask it, Joe says it to his grandmother. You can actually scroll down on our socials and see what he said to her. Just turn up and the rest will take care of itself. So that's a rule and a lesson that really stands strong for myself and everyone in our business, from our staff to our members. And it's something that, I hope you can take away from this. Rule number 2. Surround yourself with good people. I think one of the favorite sayings I've heard a member say, or sort of, I guess, it's a feedback that come from our members, is I come to SOF for the training. I tend to stay at SOF because of the people. And for us, that's a really, really important part of what we do and how we run our business. And it's ebbed and flowed. In my own experience, it's been really interesting. If I go back to rule number 1, turn up, there was a period there where I don't think I was turning up as consistently as I probably should have, or as I probably could have, or as I probably would have liked. And as a result, the good people that we had put on the team ended up moving on to different opportunities because they obviously joined our team to be, working with myself and, a couple of the other key senior staff members here. But when I wasn't there with them, they obviously, didn't meet what expectation that they had said. So surrounding yourself with good people is critical. And this is both in business and in your training and your health. If you're surrounded by people that enjoy being active, that enjoy training, they're going to drag you along on those days when you don't feel like it, and therefore making rule number one a little bit easier. Second to that, they influence your decision making. They influence how you think about yourself, or what you want to get out of training sessions, and they might just drag you a little further than you thought you might get. And so that's a really valuable asset. Second part to that is when you are surrounded by good people, you're more likely to foster better relationships with new people. And again, it's something we find so often, and it's why I believe group fitness works as a business model for fitness businesses, is because people are looking for connection. People are looking for a sense of belonging, for a place to go and meet and interact with people. Even if we don't, set out with that as our initial intention for joining a gym or getting into training, it is a byproduct that we end up really relishing and staying along the ride for. And so, from our over 50s program to our youth program to our general group fitness program, being around good people is a critical component. And a step further away from that for us as a business is we've spent a lot of time investing very heavily in our staff. And our staff, we like to believe, are good people and always have been. Everyone that's been through the program, from our internship through to our senior staff and everyone in between, they are good people and they share the same values that we have. Even the ones that have come and gone in short periods of time, at the end of the day, we've been really lucky, and it's something we've prioritized. As a result, they tend to bring good people from a membership perspective in with them. It's completely invaluable, and I believe it's one of the most important things from a business perspective that we can all do moving forward, particularly with the increase of tech influencing our lives and ultimately isolating people a lot more. Get good people around you and then work to continue to be around them. Rule number 3, aim for something. Set a goal, pick an outcome, choose a target, actually try and achieve something. And that might be an end result of running a marathon. That might be a financial target in a quarter of a financial year. That might be being able to look over your shoulder and say you've achieved X number of training sessions or X number of sales or X number of revenue. But setting some form of target is a critical component. And when it comes to training, people that haven't set really clear targets and are coming and going through the motions for the sake of it because they know it's good for them, but they don't know what they want to do, that's a really, I guess, dangerous or risky part of training. When all of a sudden you don't have a target that you're clearly going for, you're going to lose interest and most likely lose motivation and lack a reason to, again, apply rule number 1, turn up and do the work. And the same thing can go for business. You could end up just running on the spot, being on that hamster wheel and not actually moving forward in a direction that you've done. So taking time to strategize, to set aside a goal, to see what you really intend on doing and intend on becoming, and then working towards that. You may not get to that outcome, but it's the process that shooting or striving for something does in terms of developing your capacity and challenging yourself. That's the whole point of it. So you must set a target and work towards it. Fourth point is measure stuff. Measure things. Have metrics. Be it a body fat percentage and a DEXA scan, be it jumping on a force plate, be it your wattage on a bike or a VO2 max when it comes to training. All these specific power metrics. Measuring things improves your adherence. Therefore, rule number 1 becomes easier. Measuring things gives you a clear understanding if what you're doing is working, and that's in a training and a business sense. Measuring things and knowing where you are, knowing your numbers, makes what you're doing much more clear and much more accurate, and it allows you to iterate if required. So the more you measure, the more regularly you interact, the better you're going to be able to at least adjust accordingly. And an interesting part of this when it comes to training, and in particular rehabilitation, is in and around pain. Pain itself, for me, I like as a practitioner to use it as a measurement. And it's the first measurement of success or not success in terms of, if you're doing this, does it cause pain or is it reducing your pain? Be it back pain, be it recovering from surgery, be it an injury in a specific joint. Is the rehab work you're doing working? And do we have a measurement? You might want to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 to 11, out of 10 being in 100% pain and being out of no pain, and actually getting a metric that you can refer to. And if you can do that regularly, particularly those in chronic pain, you can get an understanding of what might be working for you and then what might be actually making it worse. And once you start to collect that data on yourself and have that understanding, hopefully you can then start to change your behaviors to do things that are more reducing in pain, as opposed to identifying the things that might increase pain and then being able to mitigate accordingly. So pain itself can be measured, and it's very subjective, and it's very important that you do have an understanding as an individual of your pain, and then understanding what might be increasing it or decreasing it, and slowly start to develop the tools there. And so measuring things is critical. Again, when it comes to a performance perspective, it's clearly an obvious thing that all businesses need to do, and very successful businesses have a very good understanding of all components of their business, from the marketing through to the sales, revenue, cash flow, etc. And so if you're not on top of those details, it's obviously going to come back and bite you, as surprises might happen that you haven't seen around the corner because you haven't been measuring appropriately. Rule number 5 for fitness and business: don't chase fads. I've been in the industry long enough myself, upwards of 14 years. Science Fitness is 11 years old. We've attempted to try and avoid fads as much as possible. We're generally slow on the uptake. We are sometimes boring, much to the demise of what our members might say. But there is a reason for that. Fads come and go. And the same thing happens in business. AI is a really big one in business now. Something is going to stick and be really useful in a business sense, and a lot of things are going to be fads. And they can be incredibly distracting. They can also be incredibly dangerous. They can be a straw that breaks the camel back when it comes to training. For example, if you run regularly and you include strength training, and then all of a sudden you want to go and do hill sprints because they're now suddenly a big thing that's popped up on social media and becoming per se a fad, that might just be the thing that pushes that sort of tight, niggly Achilles over the edge and stop you from running for 3 months. It's an extreme example, but you get the point. Fads don't last, and if you're in the game of business and if you're in the game of fitness, it's a game of survival first and foremost. It's a game of being able to turn up regularly, as I keep saying, referring back to rule number 1. A fad does fade away. It's called a fad for a reason, and that's going to compromise your ability to be in the game for longer. So don't chase fads. Rule number 6, know your strengths. And this sort of relates to the measuring element, but from a business and even a training perspective, know what you're good at. Know what you can actually start with. Are you a little bit more flexible? Are you naturally quite strong? Do you find it pretty easy to hinge over and touch your toes or do a deep squat? Or are you naturally pretty good at running? Have you sort of found an affection for it and you being able to step out and go for a run very easily? Find something that is your strength. When it comes to business, some people are very good at sales. Some people are good at data and analytics and numbers and accounting. Some people are very good at strategy and marketing strategies and business strategies. Know what you're good at and hone in on those skills and let them sort of sit as your foundation. And I say the same thing about training. Let what you're good at sit as your foundation. If you're a runner, great. Priority number 1 will be to keep you running, because that's your strength. It's what you do. You're going to enjoy doing it. You're going to keep doing it. You're going to be enthused to turn up and regularly do it. So stay there. However, don't make it the only thing you do. And so knowing your strengths is one thing. And then this brings us to rule number 7. Don't specialize entirely. So know your strengths. Let them be your foundation. For rule number 7, don't specialize entirely. Understand where you need to work on certain weaknesses or areas of opportunity, if you want to put it nicely, and hone in on those components. From a training perspective, if your strength might be running, but you lack range of motion through your hips and you're finding you're sort of getting stuck or stiff or tight in certain areas, then maybe you need to do a little bit of mobility work to help complement that running element that you are actually naturally sort of gifted towards. If you're really strong and you only strength train and you don't get any cardiovascular stress or exposure, ultimately it's going to wash up as a bit of a threat to your whole cardiovascular system. Better than doing nothing, hence the know your strength and set that as your foundation is the main thing that you do. But start to add in little components in and around your strength that'll generally improve your strength and make you a little bit more robust, a little bit more, solid from a training perspective and even from a business skills perspective. if you do strategy, if you do marketing, if you do sales, but you've got a good understanding of an accounting side of things and the financial, side of things, it's going to help you be a little bit more effective at doing what you do. And for us as business owners in a brick and mortar, front of house, facing people side of things, I know my strengths. The being in front of people, speaking, communicating complex things, and breaking down movement and training is my strength. But I need to have a very good understanding of the macro strategy from a financial perspective of our business. I need to know what this all means so that we can take care of things and actually move the business forward, because they are key components. And if I put my head in the sand and say someone else can worry about that, ultimately it could come back to bite me. And it has come back and bitten me in the past. Rule number 8, write things down and do what you said you would. And this sort of can be drawn similarly to the measuring things and a couple of other points, but I want to be really specific in terms of the business and the training side of things. From the training perspective, and we do this with our members, we take them through planning sessions, one-on-one sessions, roadmap sessions, where we say, what do you want? What is the outcome you want to achieve, macro level? And then we go through the micro level. And ultimately we go, what does your schedule look like? How busy are you? What do you want to commit to? And we write that commitment down. And then our job, and we've learned this along the way, is, and one of the most important things we do as trainers and as facilitators of the program here, is hold people accountable to who they said they would be when they started, when they were excited, when they were enthused. And sometimes we need to revisit that, move the goalposts a little bit, but ultimately we write it down, and then our job is to hold them accountable to sticking to that thing that they said they wanted to. From a business perspective, the same thing goes. If you sit in a meeting and do strategy, if you don't write things down and record them and stay on top of them, if you don't take some time after the end of your day to have a little reflection on what did you say to people, what did you promise to people, it does come back and bite you. And I'll say this is probably one of the main areas that I need to work on, that is a weakness of mine, is that sort of being able to reflect and say, okay, how many promises did I make? What did I write down or didn't I write down today? Make a list and then stay on top of those things so that you can actually tick things off and move the needle forward, rather than say a lot of things, break promises, let people down, lower their expectations of you, and ultimately lose their trust and potentially lose their business. And from a fitness perspective, it becomes a little bit more personal, because it might be a trainer or a family member or someone close to you that you promised you would do that thing, and that falls over, and there could be 10 reasons why it fell over for yourself. But ultimately, the main person you're making those promises to when it comes to your fitness and your health is yourself. And this is where the psychological element for what we do in exercise becomes a really strong component. And I think for me makes a really strong case in terms of mental wellness and mental health, is when you make that commitment to yourself to say, I'm going to attend X program for 3 sessions a week for X number of weeks, and you adhere to that, just simply looking over your shoulder after 6, 12, 24 weeks and going, I did do it. I did do that thing that I really, promised myself I would do. And from a sense of self-worth, a sense of, I'm actually, really proud of what I've done. I feel good about who I am. No one can take that away from you. And training in its own right, 90% of the time, you probably don't really feel like it. But being able to turn up, as we go back to rule number 1, and do the work, and then look over your shoulder and say, oh, wow, I have done that. It goes a long way to your sense of self-worth. And it's something that people need to acknowledge and people need to consider, and ultimately people need to do. Rule number 9, listen to the problems or pain in your body or in your business when they present. And don't put your head in the sand and ignore them. And it's a really important rule, this one, because from a training perspective, quite often we get told to push through pain, pain is temporary, etc. And it gets misconstrued. There's a degree of this is hard and it's challenging me, and yes, there's an element of it hurts my muscles when I build lactic in them, and there's a degree of pain that we've got to tolerate. But there's a difference between training over the top, being a bit overcommitted and actually running your joints into the ground, or breaking something down, or overdoing it and ignoring the pain that your body is giving you, ignoring the signals and doing back-to-back runs when that hip, knee, Achilles is sore. Listen to it. Listen to your body. Understand, is this happening for a reason? Do I need to consider my load management? Am I not moving correctly? Is there areas that I need to really tidy up from a movement perspective before I can actually tolerate this new change in load or work that I'm doing. And those little elements are really important when it comes to physical awareness. And a big part of what we do here at SOF, and one of the main programs we run in our Elevate program, is to be able to personalize the training experience so people can learn how to move their body so that they can see when and why things hurt and then be able to mitigate them. And that's where we work across sort of skill sets in terms of physiotherapists, exercise physiologists, exercise scientists, people that understand movement, pain, and can cross-pollinate with each other in terms of the feedback and in terms of actually teaching people and giving them the tools to be independent and take care of their body. When it comes to business, the same rules apply. If things are leaking, if there's a breakdown in a system, your marketing might be good, your sales might be good, but then your churn might be really high from a business, sort of for us, using very gym-specific terminology. That's a pain point, and you need to go at that pain point or problem, and realize, why is the churn high? What's going wrong? Is it how we make customers feel? Are the programs not effective? And go after that pain and actually tidy up the mechanism that might be driving it. And in doing so, as much as that is challenging and as hard as that is, you're going to be able to solve problems and then look for where is the next area that I need to go and work on. And as a business owner, you need to be across enough of these details to be able to go in, understand where the problem or pain point might be able to put in a strategy to mitigate for that, be able to measure that. And again, we're talking about all the rules up the chain here, and then be able to go again. The same rules apply for your body and achieving health and fitness goals. Rule number 10, and this is one of my favorite. Slow and steady wins the race. And this can't be said enough, particularly in health and fitness, but also in business. Young people particularly, those that are getting into business or that are starting off their career, and again, everyone that's a little bit older and got an established career or even retired listening to this will smile and nod. Slow and steady wins the race. A get-rich-quick scheme does not work, and it does not make you feel fulfilled. Ultimately, you hear it all over the world in different philosophical tones. It's often about the journey. In fact, it is about the journey. It's not about the destination. And slow and steady wins the race. And when it comes to business, the same rule applies. If you're in the game of quickly making a hit of money, sure, but then what about life after that? And ultimately, we're looking for a purpose to get up every morning and contribute. And if you get to run a business or work in a business or a profession that gives you that purpose, that you enjoy, that you feel called to, then lucky you. But slow and steady wins the race, and it is certainly about the journey and the process that you're adhering to, not getting there quickly, not trying to be the most successful young person immediately. And likewise in health and fitness, there is no end destination. There is no, if I do 8 sessions this week, I don't have to do any more for the rest of the month type solution. It's slow and steady. It's dripping into the bucket to ultimately have a full, abundant bucket that people look at and go, oh, wow, I wish I could be able to do that. It must be so nice being able to do that. You can go and run or do a handstand or have whatever skill from a movement or training perspective. That doesn't happen overnight. And quite simply, sticking to things, adhering, turning up regularly, I say it again, slowly but surely, you get to a position where people go, oh, you appear to be an overnight success, both in a health perspective and in a business perspective. So know that it is a journey. And when you're approaching your next decision, when it comes to your health or your business, know that, is this going to be part of that slow, steady burn that allows me to feel confident, allows me to feel fulfilled, and ultimately gets to where I want to be? And taking the time to understand what that means and how hard that might be is a really important thing to do. Rule number 11, and this one came from the man Joseph Aggressor himself. I asked him, give me one rule outside of these ones that I've written down, and he said, be sure to celebrate along the way. And it's classic that it does come from Joey. It's something that I probably don't do enough. I tend to try and have a good time whilst doing, but at the end of the day, being able to step back and step out of what you're doing from a business and a training perspective and just celebrate the fact that you are working hard at it, that you are chipping away, is a really important thing to do. And how you do that, that might be having a big night out, having a big lunch with friends or family or whatever it might be. It might be just having a bit of time off training or work and just decompressing for a little bit, taking that time to step away and just sort of pat yourself on the back and smile and nod at what you have done and what you have achieved and what you have worked at is invaluable. And it's something that is, really important, I think, to do for a lot of people, because we can get bogged down in the work that we do. As I said, I tend to try and sort of smile through the work that I do, but quite often when I do get forced to take a step back, particularly from my business partner, and just celebrate along the way, I tend to go, oh yeah, I really needed that. I felt I was getting a bit, catty and moody and getting stuck in my ways. So being sure to celebrate what you're doing, because, if you are applying all the rules that I've mentioned above, it can be a bit doom and gloom and long and slow. And do we ever get there? When taking that time to be able to celebrate it might just make you realize maybe you're already there. Maybe in the doing you are already there. And, a big thing that I like to do with members and clients is just remind them, just give them a little nudge that this is a very successful sort of state and play. And that's where the measurement element comes through, a state of play rather. And that measurement element gets them to understand, hey, you've come a real long way. And it's something that I would like to work on a little bit more with members and clients, to say, I know we're looking ahead and setting new goals and setting new targets, but look at where you've come from and give yourself a pat on the back and go and celebrate, go and enjoy, and go and show off, go and tell someone that would care and would be proud of you, that, hey, look at what I've achieved and look at what I've done through my commitment, through my training and for my health. It goes a long way to making you adhere better and really enjoy the process. So there you have it, 11 simple rules, nice and short, nice and sweet, and hopefully some valuable ones in there for yourself. We've done, 11 years of Science of Fitness. It's been an absolute journey, up and down and left and right and everything in between. And anyone listening to this, you've been a part of this journey, be it the first time you've ever listened to this podcast, or, you might be a member that has been here for all 11 years and some. You really do mean the world to us, and we're really proud of what we've built, and we're really proud to have every single person that's been a part of this brand along the journey. And we thank you all for your support, because we are, particularly I speak for Joe and I, but I know a lot of our team, we're living the dream of what we're doing. We love doing it. We love being able to bring what we do to you all. So thank you very much for your time today, and thank you very much for being a part of the SOF community and supporting what is the Science of Fitness. Thanks for tuning in to the Science of Fitness podcast. Be sure to check us out across all forms of social media and subscribe to this channel if you want to stay up to date to the latest episodes and any other anecdotes with which we might share across these video platforms. If you ever find yourself locally in Brisbane, be sure to drop into one of our facilities or down on the Gold Coast in Burley. You can also check us out at scienceoffitness.com.au and see all things relating to what we offer in programming and performance, whether it's online or in person.